SDL and Merrick for that, so I'm not going to take up any more time. I'll just let SDL jump into it.
Hey Vaush. So I guess related to the previous conversation, one thing I wanted to mention is, have you heard of the term decommodification of labor?
Of labor, not
Yeah.
specifically.
So it's a really interesting idea that comes from, if you ever see the Medlock post, this guy Gosta Epsing Anderson, one of his big ideas for a good welfare state is that it decommodifies labor. Whether you're like working in the labor market or not,
Oh,
you should be able to have like a reasonably high, like reasonably luxurious living standard. So that's like one of his standards for what socialism should include, whether it be market or whatever kind.
yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I think that's something I agree with on principle.
Sure. It's a useful way I think to frame it that you're literally decommodifying labor. Like no longer do you have to sell your labor to survive is the idea.
Yeah.
Okay, second meme. You talked about nationalizing as different than like democratic control of firms. So you do agree that like nationalized firms or like Medicare for all should be internally democratically run or no?
Yeah, that would be ideal, but I think that the with the medical industry being that it is necessary and that its products are inelastic in their demand, I think that democratization is superseded in importance by decommodification.
Sure. That might be true. I sometimes people seem to treat nationalization as like totally opposite of having democratic control within the organization. And so I think it is important to note that like I think one of the reasons a lot of nationalizations failed, like in Britain and other countries, is they were World War II era nationalizations, which were not democratic. They were just run by the central government. And so there was no one in the institution who was really tied to the running of it, like really, really tied to the culture of it, who would fight against the privatization because it was all controlled at the center. So I think it's a strong argument for like very democratic
Yeah,
nationalizations.
I shouldn't have implied that they were antithetical to each other.
I mean, I just can't believe that you would speak imprecisely on an AMA stream, what, 3 hours in? I think it's deeply unacceptable,
Yeah, we
actually.
have a debate panel after this one. We'll see how bad my rhetoric gets there.
Good luck fighting with your mush brain, buddy. All right, third thing. This one, slight actual fighting. So, do you agree that like more firearm availability in the house generally means more suicide, more homicide?
Yes.
Okay. So, but you want to like maintain guns as like a way to protect against tyranny, right?
Um, I think that because we already have guns here in this country now, I think that their ownership can be employed in a more reasonable and meaningful way. If guns are to be generally available in this country, yes, I think that leftists should have them, certainly, liberals too. Um, but I don't think that's the principal reason why I'm opposed to gun bans in this country, more because it's politically inefficacious and it would sap what might otherwise be an effective sort of legislative term.
Sure. I mean, blanket bans are probably unefficacious. I think like it's only like 30% of people want to overturn the Second Amendment. So yeah, definitely. Though a lot of pretty extreme gun control has like total support. I think people support like 60 to 40 taking away guns from people with a diagnosed mental illness. Like people are kind of crazy for this shit.
Yeah, see,
If you
I
poll
don't
them on
like
it.
that one very much.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not in favor of it all. It's just political efficacy is not always like I guess more idealistically, what do you think the argument for retaining guns is if there is one? Like in an ideal society where you don't have to worry about political efficacy, would you maintain widespread household gun ownership?
I guess it depends on how stable I think the society is, you know? In an increasingly destabilizing society, I do think that individuals should own firearms because it's a necessary component to protecting their neighborhoods and warding off bands of marauders looking to, I don't know, eat the squirrels in their neighborhood or something. In a
Yeah,
society
those
which
are
is
my squirrels.
right. In a society which is perfectly and eternally stable, then I would say no. But given the way the world's been going lately, I don't know. I think it's kind of a responsible thing to hold on to. It's also contextual because I feel like those marauding gun bandits are probably going to happen more frequently here in America than, say, the UK, you know? It's difficult to say because I feel like so much of the reason why I think people should own guns is informed by the fact that people already have guns. I could say we could take away the guns, but how effectively could we do that? Would we just leave them in the hands of people who I want them to have the least? Or would it just be, can I magically snap them all away? If I could, then I suppose, but at that point, I'm not entirely sure whether or not we would have fixed the underlying problems that would have led me to defend the political efficacy of guns. It's really tough for me to say. I'm not an evangelist for firearms. I just think a lot of people are irrationally paranoid of them.
Well, let me take your evangelism, or lack thereof, and convert it to librarianism. I've got a solution which will solve all of your concerns about the collapse of society and protecting civilian freedom. It's called the gun library. Don't speak too loudly. The basic idea is if you think that it's important to have guns for community defense, whether for freedom or the collapse of society, then that's where the gun should be located, in some communal center, communal gun stores, communal gun ownership. And so you need the gun library. You want your gun, you go in with your gun license and you check it out, just like you check out a book. Simple as that.
I don't know why you're laughing. I'm totally okay with that. It would also cut down on suicides.
It's
and,
her fault.
Whose fault?
She keeps laughing about the gun library, which is a totally legitimate idea. All I want is everyone to go with their gun license, not speak too loudly. The librarian will shoot you, and check out your guns. Okay,
I call
that's
them
it. That's all I want.
community armories, but the biggest a huge chunk of the deaths that you get with firearms are crimes of passion and suicide. Neither of
Sure.
which can happen if it's locked up in an armory, right? I mean,
Yep.
technically, if you want, so because like if anyone wants to kill themselves with a gun, it's super easy to. All you have to do is find a friend, and then you go over to a gun range, and then because you have a friend with you, they'll let you rent a gun, and then you shoot yourself. But it never happens. It never happens. And the only reason for that is because oftentimes the urge to kill yourself is such an immediate and impulsive thing that actually acting on the logical steps to do that is, I mean, by the time you're even in the car, the urge is past, and thank God for that. So yeah, I think the community armories would be a great idea.
Sure. I just wanted to propose it. Like, I guess I see it as possibly the most like radical gun control proposal that's politically feasible, because it would pass like Second Amendment muster. It would pass the muster of like, oh, I need guns to protect my freedoms or concerns about the collapse of society. But it would like avoid a huge number of the homicides, because like you're talking about, one of the big reasons the United States has a higher rate of homicide is intimate partner violence in the U.S. gets converted to intimate partner homicide. Someone's in a fit of rage, they take the gun and convert what might have been a beating to a killing.
Yeah.
And so like I get, yeah.
No,
I'm just trying to agree.
I agree with that. And guns aren't really useful for home defense anyway, as the data goes. So that's not really
Yeah.
the operative issue there. The only thing I'd say though, I think you could probably make a strong argument for personal possession of firearms in one's home if you have a CCW or CCL. Sorry. I think that there are probably some people in some positions for which like it could be fairly reasonably defended that they could keep a gun at their place. Without it being a threat. Concealed carry license, chat.
Well, it sounds like you have been utterly red-pilled on gun libraries. Okay, Comrade Vaush. That's really all I got for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You two take care, okay?
Thank you.